We are back, people, and it is the Monday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and that means it's time for the Waiver Wire special, injury breakdowns, and of course, big time bets. We're also going to give you our reactions from the weekend. That was wild in the NHL. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the show, everybody.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to your source for fantasy hockey news. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, alongside my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. I am your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We appreciate you, and love y'all for hearing us every single day on our takes for fantasy hockey, and we have a lot more coming up, including today's episode, which means we're taking a look at injury news. Waiver-wire Monday, of course, big-time bets, and we're also going to talk about our reaction over a wild weekend of NHL news, all on today's episode, people. Stay tuned for all of it. Steele, I'm not going any deeper into this preamble. You know I usually like to spout off at the mouth. This was an interesting weekend in the NHL. There's a lot to take in, hard to keep up, but let's start with something that's close to home, a little injury news for a big-time player for the Winnipeg Jets, and they've had a good start. You almost feel like Nikolai Ehlers coming back would have been huge. Yeah. Now he's out. What are you doing with Nikolai Ehlers? Because I know you own this player. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, you mentioned that it's close to home. I have him in both of my fantasy leagues on ESPN. He's been on the IR since the beginning of the season, practically after the second game for the Winnipeg Jets. So for me, as of right now, I'm going to remain to keep him on the IR because for both of my teams, he's the only guy that is on the injured reserve for me. So I don't have any other unfortunates that are happening with my team where I don't have an IR spot open to put someone else. So the fact that he's the only one injured as of right now for my team, I'm comfortable enough keeping him on the IR. It does say that they're going to reevaluate in later February after having the sports hernia surgery. So we'll see where he's at in February. Hopefully he can come back late February, even beginning of March, just to get some time and some production for anybody that has him on the fantasy team. But it is a rough blow. It does suck, especially, going into the season, he was completely healthy. And after the second game for the Winnipeg Jets, he gets injured. So it's very unfortunate. But, I've watched the Winnipeg Jets over the last week or so. They've looked really good without him so far. Yes. So, yeah, it's a tough blow for them, but they're still finding ways and being able to get the job done with losing one of their special talents in Ehlers.
And you know what? That really is a testament to how good this team is offensively because, a quick look at this guy's numbers, he might be one of the more underrated players out there, Steele. Let me just ream this off real quick. 25 goals, 29 goals, 25 goals, 28 goals, 21 goals. This guy is solid. Not many people in the NHL under the radar like Nikolai Ehlers coming in and scoring 60, 55 points and, 20-plus goals. This is a valuable piece that, unfortunately for you, you're now going to have to wait and be even more patient, and you already were with this guy. Thankfully for you, you can stash him on the IR, but there is a lot of people out there, they don't have that benefit. They're going to have to dump this guy and look for something else because also – if you've been hanging on to him, you've probably already passed up on a few good chances to add a body. So that's an interesting situation.
That's the thing, too, is I got a message from the fan-based fantasy league of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, because if you remember just a couple of weeks ago, there was somebody in our league who wanted to trade 3 players for Nikolai Ehlers and Jack Eichel. And at the time, I was like,
my bad. Did I tell you not to do that? My bad.
I wasn't comfortable enough to accept the trade anyways, because at the time, Ehlers was getting back on the ice, and Jack Eichel was just playing way too good to get rid of. Even though the trade, I believe it was Marchessault, McAvoy, and Raquel, an outstanding trade that is very, very promising. I couldn't let go of Jack Eichel, and with Ehlers that at the time potentially coming back, I
Yeah,
had to decline it. But as of right now,
hard.
looking back at it, I probably would have accepted.
This is just one of those things, man. Like, we hop on here Monday to Friday. By the way, people, do not slip or sleep. We are here Monday to Friday for all of your fantasy hockey needs. You know where to find us across all platforms. You find your favorite and hottest content. But seriously, Steele, this is sometimes a little bit of an up and down guessing game. And there you go. Perfect example. 2 weeks ago, if you were to say, oh, you know what? I'm willing to take the risk and let go of a guy named Nikolai Ehlers who's been so solid.
Yeah.
Hindsight's 2020. Let's move on from that, because if that was the game you and I were playing, oh my goodness, it would be a long, long episode that no one wants to
Yeah.
listen to. But what people do want to listen to, and I know we're going to get to the big time bets, we're going to get to the waiver wire ads, which is why you're all here today. Steele and I just got to hit you with the recap from the weekend, and where I want to start very quickly, Steele. Connor McDavid's game winner. This guy, honestly, keeps impressing, and I don't know how he keeps doing it. And maybe it's just because the rest of the NHL can't keep up, and he's not maybe getting better. He's just this good. 1 goal, 1 assist against the last game. Was it the Vegas Golden Knights? I think it was the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
What a goal. He is an exciting player to watch. 16 goals, 18 assists. I just needed to show a little bit of love to McJesus because that goal was special. I watched it about 18 times. But the second point I wanted to make, Steele, now all of a sudden, and again, close to home for you, I believe, with Matt Barzal, 1T.
Yeah.
Now 2 goals. Maybe the floodgates open for a guy who already had like 17 or 18 assists. I have a feeling Matt Barzal is in for a very special season.
Yeah, I said that in the offseason as well. I think we're going to see him back to at the time of his rookie season where he put up 82 points, 83 points.
Yeah.
And he's showcasing his skill set right now. Obviously, I think he had maybe 40, 45 shots on net without a goal at the point in the season, but he was still putting up a point per game effort with just assists alone. So the fact that he finally got off the schneid,
Yes.
got his first and second goal in that game against the Dallas Stars as well. Both goals weren't like anything special. It was a quick tip in front of the net.
That's what he needed, though.
That's exactly what he needed. Just a quick tip in front of the net. The other one, it looked like it was a little bit of a wobbler or so, but the fact that he's finally off the schneid, the monkey off the back, he's on the score sheet with a couple of goals now. I think that relieves a little bit of pressure up front on his shoulders and a little bit of pressure on some of his teammates as well, trying to help him get that first one of the season. So I'm happy about it. I know he's happy about it, and Islander fans are happy about it.
Very intriguing start to Matt Barzal's season. And, you and I mention a lot on this show. Sometimes you need to separate the fantasy quality from just a quality hockey player. And looking at how good Matt Barzal is, yes, the assists were there, but you can't just go, oh, no goals, I got to bail on this guy. When you watch how good he is on the ice, he does so many good things right. I love watching Matt Barzal play. One more take, Steele, and I can't talk about the weekend without talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs in some respect. But in all seriousness, if you're not paying attention to the heater that Mitch Marner is on, you need to catch up. And if you're in these daily fantasies, Mitch Marner is a guy you got to be hammering, because I understand every week we come out here and we talk about some players that you're like, Flip, Steele, I can't go out there and add me a Mitch Marner. No, you can't, but you can still make some money on DFS. And if you're really on a heater, go out there and make a trade, because I know 4 goals, 18 assists, that is sexy. Mitch Marner's doing some special stuff. He's playing with confidence, Steele. And I'll leave it at this. The Toronto Maple Leafs have one way to win sustainably, and maybe it's not sustainably. They need all of those big pieces to fire on offense, and it can't just be 1 or 2. It literally needs to be 3 of those 4 big pieces. I mean, Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, and Marner. So now they're going. Let's see what happens with the Leafs, but Marner is one of those takeaways. He's just playing with confidence and poise right now, Steele, and it's kind of fun to watch.
It is very fun to watch. For me, though, I'm actually taking a look at William Nylander. I think he's been a lot better. There are still some areas as well for him to fix his game where he looks a little bit lackadaisical. He's not putting enough passion into the corners, fighting for those pucks like the rest of his teammates are. But he has been a lot better as well alongside Mitch Marner.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, look, we bring these Leafs takes in because we watch the team closely, but sometimes just as an NHL fan, you need to be paying attention because Marner's doing some special stuff. Also, some special stuff happening with our friends at Simply Safe. Today's episode is brought to you by Simply Safe. If you've ever thought about securing your home with home security and you've been putting it off, listen up, because right now, all of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast listeners can order #1 rated Simply Safe home security for 50% off. People, jump in on this like Steele and I have. It's protecting his apartment. It's protecting my home back here in Ontario. It is the biggest offer of the year from Simply Safe, and here's why we love it. Did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package thefts, they spike across the country? That's why our friends at Simply Safe Home Security are offering that 50% off their award-winning system so that more families and listeners of this podcast can feel safe and secure this holiday season. Order your Simply Safe system for half off today and enjoy the advanced security and greater peace of mind that Simply Safe brings. You know, their 24/7 professional monitoring, around-the-clock agents give you and your family that peace of mind. Don't miss the chance to save big on the only security system both Steele and I recommend. That's right, people. Get 50% off at any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL. There is no safe like Simply Safe.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your next listen, though, please check out Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And Flip, it is now time for Monday's waiver wire. The guys, the players, the defense, the goalies, the forwards, every player that we're looking at for this upcoming week. And if you don't mind, I'd really like to kick us off because I have 3 guys from the same team, but 6 total. So these 3 guys, I'm pulling them into one real quick. So I'm going to try to blast through it real fast. The New Jersey Devils are on the hottest win streak of their life, of their organization. So
I'm a little bit cheesed. I'm a little bit cheesed how hot they've been.
A little bit cheesed at how well they're doing. But got to give kudos to where the kudos is deserved. So Miles Wood and Nathan Bastian. Both guys are on the 4th line right now. Wood, he has 11 points, 50 shots, and 25 hits. Bastian, he's got 8 points on the season, 45 hits, 15 blocks, 21 shots. And both those guys are only averaging 13 and a half minutes so far this season. So not a ton of ice time, but they are getting the opportunity and doing the best and producing on those opportunities as well. But at the same time, there's another guy, Fabian Zetterlund, playing on the first line with Jack Hughes and Thomas Tatar. He's got 8 points in 13 games so far in the season. All 3 of those guys are owned 12% or less. And I just really like the fact that they're getting it done, playing only 13 and a half minutes each. I threw Fabian Zetterlund in there because he's on that top line as well. And they have 4 games this upcoming week. So they play the Oilers tonight, the Maple Leafs Wednesday, and then they have a back-to-back of the Buffalo Sabres and the Washington Capitals, which those 2 teams have just not been great whatsoever recently or the entire season. So I'm throwing those 3 players who are owned at 12% or less.
I like that you're talking a little bit about Zetterlund and some of these other pieces. What's also very intriguing to me is this Devils lineup seems to be a little bit different every couple of games. And I think that's a true testament. And I want you to hit me with your honest opinion on this. I think that is a true testament to maybe 1 or 2 players. We talked about Jack Hughes and we mentioned Nikolaj Ehlers. The captain of this team has been one of the main reasons they have been playing with this confidence. Look, that draft, Nolan Patrick, Nikolaj Ehlers going 1 and 2 that year. We were almost ready to give up on them, especially after what you saw from Nolan Patrick. Nikolaj Ehlers is starting to prove those haters and doubters wrong. And in a big way, he's looking confident. He's also doing it at both ends of the ice, Steel. Almost 20 minutes of ice time. How about 56 shots, 3 game-winning goals, 9 goals, 10 assists? I love what you're saying about these peripheral pieces. And what my takeaway is, I think it speaks volumes to how good Jack Hughes, Nikolaj Ehlers, and some of these pieces that the Devils were waiting to really get there. They're getting there. And oh my goodness, if they even win 1 or 2 more games in a row, that might already be a playoff spot. And maybe because the Metro Division, I know I'm getting out of hand, but the Metro Division is a very impressive division. I know you have a bunch more players. Let me reel off one very quickly because speaking of giving up on top draft picks, how about Owen Tippett, 10th overall pick that people were ready to write off? Don't do it just yet, people, because how about 3 goals and 2 assists over his last 4 games. And again, I mentioned the shot volume. He's getting shots up. 32 shots in the month of November already, just that. And more ice time. Look, Owen Tippett, it might be a streaky ad steal. I've gone a little bit bold on my waiver targets this week. 4% rostered in ESPN, 10% in Yahoo. Go take a shot on Owen Tippett, a guy who had an amazing junior career, and he's on a bit of a heater. So why not take a shot? I think the Flyers only play twice this week, maybe 3 times, which is a concern. But Tippett is scoring, so maybe take a shot on him if you need a little boost on that offense.
Yeah, he has looked really good in that 5-game stretch, like you mentioned. I'm looking at another young player, rookie on the season as well. And you and I talked about him a little bit. And I'm going to make this real quick because
Please.
I think it's worth a shot at, taking the risk. Matias Maccelli of the Arizona Coyotes.
Yes.
We talked a little bit last week, but he's got 1 goal and 10 points in 16 games so far. Looking at his peripheral stats, there's not much to love about it. 14 shots, 8 hits, 2 blocks, nothing much to love about that. But he's racking up the assists right now on the second line with Lawson Krause on the other wing as well. So they got 4 games this upcoming week as they continue on this 13-game road trip. They take on the Predators, the Red Wings, the Hurricanes, and the Wild. So very 4 tough matchups on the road as well. So it's a guy to look at. But again, I think it's worth the take. The risk at a guy who's owned at less than 5%.
What's interesting with what you're saying with this player, Steele, and this is what kind of just popped into my head, is if those peripherals aren't looking good to you and they don't smell right and they're racking up points, maybe by chance, maybe by fluke, or it's on the fluky side of things, not taking away from what this player has done, but maybe you jump on him and try and sell him off, sell high. That's where you could maybe go with one of these players like this who, maybe not be doing too much of anything else. You jump on him now while he's hot, sell him for something valuable that might make a little bit more sense. That's where you go with this guy. Steele, I've got 2 other players, and I'm going to ream them off quick. But this next guy, I know you're going to love this because bodies are dropping like flies on the Columbus Blue Jackets blue line. And that means, especially in deeper formats, Dynasty, Keeper, you need to jump on the players that are left. And it might not be pretty, but your boy Vladislav Gavrikov now all of a sudden is almost the number 1 in Columbus. He is eating more minutes. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists on the season. Not too much to love, but I know, Steele, you like this player. He can get it done. He's shown that he has a little bit of NHL hang. Why not go and take a shot on a guy who's only 50% owned? He had a goal and an assist just 4 games ago. He can get it done. I'm just looking at these holes, Steele, with injuries. By de facto, Gavrikov is going to get run out there a ton, and you're going to thank me later in the week when he's just eating up shots, blocks, and whatever else. Pims, he gets a couple of those too. Gavrikov, 50% owned. Go take a shot. Rowensky, Jake Bean, and others dropping like flies in Columbus. This guy's going to get a lot of run out, Steele, and I love me some minutes on ice.
Yeah, and that's just his game as well. Block shots, hits, penalty minutes. He can throw in the odd assist every now and again, but it's really those peripheral stats that really add up for fantasy value for me. That's why I like him so much. Just as you were speaking, my headset, completely died, so I had to switch headsets out there real quick.
I was like, why is Steele not rebutting me and chirping all my? This is great. He's just loving everything. Now it makes sense. That's okay. Technical difficulties. Do you have any other waiver wire targets? I have 1 more before we get to big time bets.
I have 2 more, and I'm going to make them real quick. First guy I'm looking at is JG Pageau of the New York Islanders. 11 points, 31 shots, 57 hits, and 15 blocks. The Islanders have 4 games this upcoming week. Maple Leafs, Oilers, Blue Jackets, and Flyers. Pageau has 4 points in his last 5 games. He's starting to heat up right now, and he's owned less than 30% in both ESPN and Yahoo leagues.
And those 4 teams give up a ton of goals.
Those 4 teams give up a ton of goals. But my last guy, and I've mentioned him before, but I need to mention him again real quick. I can't believe that Logan Couture is only owned at 32% on Yahoo fantasy leagues. He is owned at 80% on ESPN, so he's unlikely out there in that format. But Yahoo at 32%, 9 goals, 15 points, 39 shots, 30 hits, 20 blocks. He's got goals in 3 straight games. He's got 7 points in his last 6 games. And that the Sharks also have 4 games this upcoming week. Senators, Kraken, Kings, and Canucks in this upcoming week. So
Favorable week.
very favorable, advantageous schedule for the Sharks. So those 5 guys I'm looking at.
Love it. I have one more player that I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that are out there at the percentage that he's at. We'll get to that right after the break alongside big time bets, baby. We got to keep paying these bills, Steele.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And you know where we get the odds from for our big time bets. That is betonline.net. BetOnline is your #1 source for betting football and the NBA season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every single game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information, betting, and up-to-the-minute scores on every single sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your other favorite sports as well, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Please make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, and get ready for big time bets. But Flip has one last player for waiver wire, so let us know who that player is.
And Steele, you're going to want to be paying attention to this because, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's usually, thank you, eyes on. Hey, people, if you can't see Steele paying attention with these eyes on, by the way, we are some easy cats to look at for the most part. So make sure you're out there on YouTube smashing that subscribe button. Drop us reviews, follows, feedback. We are trying to get better for y'all out there so you can keep making this money. Speaking of which, you got to pay attention to opportunities for players that get moved on to top lines. Trevor Zegras, Troy Terry have both been great. Now, all of a sudden, Adam Henrique is on that top line. And if you haven't been paying attention, he's only 5% owned, and he is on the score sheet in 6 straight games. And having a good start to the season, maybe under the radar like any other player that I haven't looked at this year, Steele. 6 goals, 4 assists, and now his opportunity with 2 players that you and I have both, we don't need to talk about how much we like Zegras and Terry. Adam Henrique, nice veteran presence, good hands. How about this, too? 32 shots on net, 15 hits, even plus minus. He also gets it done on the power play. 2 power play points in his last game. Adam Henrique, 5% owned in ESPN, 12% owned on Yahoo. Steele, I am fired up about going to try and get Adam Henrique, which I might do right after we record this podcast. Go out there and add him and thank me in the comments later this week.
You got to catch them when they're hot. That's exactly what we're trying to tell you out there. And catch us while we're hot right now for big time bets as well. And if you don't mind, Flip, I'd like to start us off because the kid is red hot. As of recent,
you've earned it.
I know I've been talking a little bit about those 3 Devil players for the waiver wire target. My first pick of the night. I'm taking the Oilers on the money line on the road against these red hot Devils right now at plus 135. I think the odds are great. I think we just witnessed, again, Connor McDavid can do anything by himself. I know the goalie struggles have been there for the Oilers, so a little bit this year, but I've got the Oilers on the money line to shut down this red-hot Devils team.
Well, you're going to like my first pick because after that nice come-from-behind win for the Oilers, overtime win, I should say, I'm feeling a little bit of a pick-me-up, and Connor McDavid is just on some kind of tear right now that if that doesn't inspire the Edmonton Oilers, I'm going to start giving up on this team sooner than later, Steele, seriously. And I know you've been very realistic about the Oilers' overall potential, and I have been maybe more positive about me thinking, I've thrown out some Stanley Cup predictions with this team, and they've let me down. If Connor McDavid playing this well doesn't fire up the rest of this group to also do their thing, I'm not talking about 13 goals and 16 assists so far this season. I'm talking about just winning games. I don't know what will. So give me the Oilers on the money line as well, plus 135. It's silly to bet against a team that's been as hot as Jersey and just say they're due for a loss.
Yeah.
But man, they are due for a loss. And why not the hottest player in the NHL and Connor McDavid to make that happen? Hit me with your second pick.
Well, hey, look, it's got to be at least one Canadian team because I took the Maple Leafs against the Devils, didn't pan out. I took the Senators against the Devils, didn't pan out. So now it's up to the Oilers to finally do it for us Canadians.
That should go well.
It should go well. My second pick, I am taking, once again, the Senators on the money line at plus 105 against the San Jose Sharks. These are both 2 really bad teams right now. I have a
Yeah.
little bit more faith in the Senators. They have so much talent on front. It's just they're breaking down in their defensive zone. That's what's letting them lose these games practically.
Yep.
I've watched a lot of Senators games this year, and they do look good. Just defensive breakdowns, giveaways in the neutral zone, those typical situations. But
Yep.
my lock of the night is the Avalanche on the money line, minus 110 against the Dallas Stars. That
I
is my
like.
lock of the night.
Love it. The Dallas Stars, I don't know what it is, and you can fall into these
They're
traps of,
good. They're
betting
good.
betting the teams you think you like, but I can also fall into the trap of betting against the team I'm scared of. Like, I am
Yeah.
scared of this Dallas Stars team because Joe Pavelski's already burned me. I'm jaded from that prediction. That's number 1. Number 2 is that goaltending tandem is, I somehow still think, Steel, underrated. Jake Hunter
Very
and Scott
underrated.
Wedgwood, they are solid, man. That's not what is going to let this team down this year, and I don't know what will. But what might let you down is if you don't bet on the Calgary Flames tonight. They are going to absolutely slap around the Philadelphia Flyers. That was a big win for them on the road against Florida. I know Jonathan Huberdeau was held off the score sheet, but that was a big victory for these Calgary Flames. They are 7-2-1 in their last 10 against the Flyers. The Flyers had their hot start. It's time to go back to Philadelphia hockey for the next season or two. They are not good, Steel. They
They're
are
not.
just not good, and that is okay. Owen Tippett, though, might be on fire. Not going to hate against him. Give me the Calgary Flames on the money line, minus heavy juice, minus 195 right now. That's not my lock of the night, and I think you'll like this since you are riding with the Senators. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
You and I talked a lot about a bunch of different players. We threw out a lot of different predictions before the episode. I talked a little bit about my boy Timmy Stützle. 4 assists in the last 4 games, 6 goals, 11 assists this season. Give me the Timmy Stützle anytime assist. That's my lock of the night, Steel. I don't know what's really going to happen with these Ottawa Senators this year, but I know that top 6 forward group is really elite. And a sidebar, this stuff Brady Tkachuk has been doing with kids off ice, being a leader, helping, children with disabilities. That's not what we usually talk about, but I got to give some love to Brady Tkachuk as a young leader and a guy who's now getting it done on and off the ice. Hats off to you. I love to see it. More players and more professional athletes need to be like that and take that lead. Sidebar conversation. Timmy Stützle, anytime assist. That's my lock of the night.
Well, that's what matters most right now, especially around the holiday season, as well as giving back to the communities, giving back to the people who show so much love towards you, your organization, what you do, and what you bring for the communities as well. So definitely got to give appreciation out there to Brady Tkachuk and some other players who are doing wonderful things in this holiday season. The locks of the night, again, my lock of the night, Avalanche on the money line, minus 110, and Flip's lock of the night, anytime assist from Timmy Stützle from the Ottawa Senators. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Once again, please check out Locked On Sports Today podcast, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Thank you again so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Go Bills.